We have Mike Tomlin's press conference leading up to uh, the game versus the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. Obviously, people aren't too pleased with how Thursday Night Football versus the Bengals turned out. I did have a, what was it, like 15-minute discussion, almost 16-minute discussion on that game and a couple different statistics. So go check that out. That was with Mike Tomlin's post game. And like I said, I like to listen to people who break stuff down, right? It's not, I watched the game and that's it. No, it's I watched the game and then I watched the film. And that gives you an idea. Was it as bad as it looked? Was it not as bad as it looked? Or was it worse than it looked? Right? And different stats and everything like that. So you can always go check that out. But we are moving on from that Cincinnati game, right? So we have this game. Now, Mike Tomlin off a bye is 15-4 right now because we won our game versus Cleveland off the bye. So we're 15-4 off the bye. But extended rest in general, Mike Tomlin's pretty good. He's got a good record for Monday Night Football. And now we're coming off Thursday Night Football where we have some extra time. And I did tweet after the Bengals game, this would be the kind of thing that Mike Tomlin Steelers would do. You lose Thursday night on the short week to the Cincinnati Bengals, and then you go out and beat the Green Bay Packers. We'll see if my tweet actually comes to fruition or not. But this would be the kind of thing that they do. So let's hear what Mike Tomlin had to say about our upcoming game versus the Packers.
Good afternoon. We're really excited about Sunday Night Football in Acrisure versus Green Bay. But as always, I'll start with a quick review of our last performance. Although it feels a little stale, I hadn't had an opportunity to visit with you guys since. As I mentioned after the game, a couple, building blocks of the engineering of victory, man, that we didn't take care of, and I think that's why the game unfolded the way that it did. For us, we got to stop the run more effectively. We feel like that's a building block for us to play good defense, to get offenses in more one-dimensional passing circumstances, to get people in more advantageous possession down circumstances for us. Our inability to stop the run, I think, created that, and that was an issue for us. It really started kind of in the second quarter when Brown popped a couple of runs, and it kind of went on from there. It never felt like we had an opportunity to stabilize that component of the game. We had been trending the right way in that space for a number of weeks, but certainly last week was a setback in that area, and I really think it created an environment where we weren't controlling the game from that perspective. I think the same could be said on the offensive side. We turned the ball over twice, and really that hadn't been us. We've been really good at protecting and preserving the football, but if you get a couple turnovers and you're not stopping the run, that's just not a good posture to play from. We certainly didn't take the ball away, and so to be -2 in a hostile place while not stopping the run, man, is kind of a catalyst for losing. You couple that with the fact that we were highly penalized and had some significant penalties. I thought the false start on 4th and 1 when we were in the red area was a 4-point-like penalty. And in games like that, man, you just can't afford to have them. The ability to execute in that space in the red zone is significant, whether it's defensively in terms of getting stops or offensively finishing. And I think in the midst of that, when we got that false start and had to settle for a field goal, that was significant as well. And so, my perspective is things were going well until they weren't. We played about a good quarter of football, and then we didn't do a good enough job stopping the run or preserving and protecting the ball. We got highly penalized, and it made it an uphill battle from there. I will say I was really appreciative of the effort. I thought the guys fought their tails off, man. We made some plays, certainly on offense. Thought we had a necessary stop on defense there with about 5 or 6 minutes to go in the game to give us another shot at it. And so, just as a collective, man, I thought they fought, particularly in less than ideal circumstances, but certainly we came up short. And there's some lessons to be learned from that. As we move into this week, I'll quickly talk about some injury things. Calvin Austin is scheduled to work this week. We'll let his participation and the quality of that participation be our guide in terms of his availability. As we stand here today, we're optimistic, and I know certainly he's optimistic about his ability to be included. We had some bumps and bruises associated with play, but after a long weekend of rehabilitation, I doubt any of those are significant in terms of limiting someone's availability. It may limit the availability at the top of the week. We'll have some veteran players and things of that nature that we'll minimize a little bit tomorrow. But as we lean in on this game, I don't expect any of those things to kind of be an issue. Now let's talk Green Bay. First, I'll start with their defense. Got a lot of respect for Jeff Hafley and the work he's doing over there with those guys. They're fundamentally sound. They don't give up big plays. I think they're third in the league in explosion run plays and first in the league in explosion pass plays. And so largely, collectively, with both, they're certainly number one. They keep the ball inside and in front. They set good edges. They reduce the amount of grass that they have to play in. And in doing so, man, they make offenses operate in an effort to score on them. And so, you gotta be clean. You gotta execute for blocks of plays at a time. You gotta execute situational plays. You gotta play penalty free. I think when you don't give up big plays, man, it creates all of those obstacles for an offensive unit, and they're certainly doing that and doing it at a high level. They've invested a lot in their edge people up front, and I think they've reaped the rewards of it. Man, they play behind that rush. Michael Parsons, can't say enough about him and his talents. You saw just the other day what he's capable of doing, and I think that's really indicative of the impact that a guy like him has. You better stay out of one-dimensional circumstances. You better stay on schedule. And in doing so, man, you really limit situations where he has an opportunity to take over. Arizona was in that game, but they had to take some risks there toward the end in an effort to pursue victory. They got somewhat one-dimensional, and guys like him, when you get in one-dimensional passing circumstances, they got an opportunity to really control the game, and he shut the game down with 2 really big sacks. And so we got our hands full, but not only with him, with Gary, with Van Ness. They got a lot of talent. They've invested a lot of talent and resources in that position up front, man. And they got a real good secondary. As I mentioned, man, they play well as a collective. They communicate well. They minimize big plays. Quay in the inside up front is a hub of communication. He's been in the league now for a number of years. He's an all-situations linebacker. He's good versus the run. He's good versus the pass. He's a good blitzer. His blitz skills were on display last week against Arizona. I think he had 2 sacks in that game. The running back pickup component, excuse me, of blitz is going to be really significant if we want to, win those situational moments. Looking at Green Bay's offense, it starts with Josh Jacobs, and not only because of the circumstances that we're in, coming off of a subpar performance in terms of stopping the run, but he's just a catalyst for a lot that goes on with them. He's a nuts and bolts player, man. He's really good. He's got a great run demeanor. His pile almost always falls the right way from his perspective. We've been familiar with him. We played against him recently when he was in Vegas. He has just been a big-time acquisition for them. I think he's got 23 rushing touchdowns since they acquired him last year, and that's just a staggering number, but it speaks to, his involvement in what it is that they do. He's obviously the central component of their run game, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention his passing game exploits as well. His screen game, his ability to turn short to long in the check down game is really impressive, and so he certainly has our attention. Jordan Love and his talents and the way that he spreads the ball around to a variety of people, his ability to extend plays, his mobility, all the things that certainly has our attention. We played him in 23, and so we're somewhat physically familiar with that skill set, but we still got to make plays. His talents really thin you out schematically. His willingness and his ability to spread the ball around to a lot of people. Tucker at tight end is really significant. He gets down the field. They throw him tight end screens. He's big in their misdirection passing game. He's just a force within their offensive system. They got a young rookie, Golden, out of Texas, that's increasing his participation with each passing week, and his talents are starting to show. I think Watson's been practicing, and so they may get Watson back this week. They got Dobbs. They got a complete repertoire of people to spread the ball around to, and they got a solid running game. And so certainly, man, we got a big week ahead of us from a prep standpoint. We got to be really good in situations. When you play people that is well-rounded as this group, you got to get off the field when given an opportunity. You got to preserve points when given an opportunity to do so. The special teams component of the game is going to be a big component of the game. We got two old warhorse coordinators, man, and Danny Smith and Rich Bisaccia. I would imagine they've gone against each other quite a bit over the years. Worked with Rich, got a lot of respect for his schematics and how he distributes the labor in that space, and so expect that to be a hotly contested component of the game as well. This Sunday night ball, we respect and appreciate an opportunity to play at prime time, particularly in Acrisure, and excited about it, but we show our excitement by being wired in and prep, and I'm looking forward to a good week of that. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
When you look at the number of plays that the opponent's running, especially like the last 4 games, it's nearly 20 plays more per game. Does something like that have your attention, and how is that explainable when you're at least having success despite that?
You know, it's a lot of layers to that discussion. Sometimes it's the pace of play of others and, you know, how they're going about their business, particularly when you have quick strikes, if you have big plays, and we've had big plays in some of those games. The big play to Moose last week, the big play to DK in Dublin. And so, you know, when you get those one-play drives and things of that nature, there's a lot of variables in that discussion, and it's not always good, it's not always bad, particularly if you're looking at a small block of time.
Not anything terribly alarming.
Not as I stand here today, no.
Mike, you guys only used Nick Herbig for about 29 snaps Thursday night. Was that, when you guys reviewed the game, was that deemed as like a personnel deployment, like mistake, or was that part of the plan in this game to limit him for some reason?
You know, certainly our inability to control the run and limiting one-dimensional passing circumstances probably affected his participation some.
He's
but again, we got
terrible
a lot of good
versus the
players.
run, but
As I mentioned often,
there could be
when
guys
you
who are
talk
better.
about playing time, just keep watching. We're going to utilize all our good players. Sometimes games unfold, whether it's schematics or matchups or just how things unfold. You guys were asking me about Muth last week. I would imagine you're not going to ask me about Muth this week, and that's just an example of it.
Like Aaron's been extending the play a little bit more, been more mobile. What do you think is behind that? Is he just getting more comfortable in the offense, or does his body look like maybe he's turning back the clock, looking like a vintage?
I think he's probably getting more comfortable with not only, you know, the people, the timing component, the personnel component, but the spacing, the strategic component, where people are. He's always done that. That's always been a component of his game. And from my perspective, the more it shows up, it just indicates comfort to me.
How can you evaluate the performance of your secondary thus far? Has it met your vision for what it was supposed to look like this
It
year?
certainly hasn't met my vision to this point, but I'm not discouraged. We got good people there, good players, good people, guys that got good relationships with the game, and so we're just going to keep working.
What caused the issues stopping the run, and are they similar to what we saw the first couple of weeks of the season?
You know, in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. You know, it's really simple when you're not stopping the run. Usually, man, people are out of their gaps if you're not being schemed, and they won some of those instances, and that's just a component of it, though. Somebody can break the line of scrimmage and have an 8 or 9 yard run. You live to play another down. They had a 25-yard run, a 37-yard run, and so that speaks to multi-layers of dysfunction. You know, people out of their gap and us not keeping the ball in a confined space once it gets to the second and third level. And so those are two things that has our attention. There's a gap integrity component of it, and that's up front. And oftentimes that's, you know, reflected by, you know, yards per. But the explosion play component of it is about netting and keeping the ball in a constricted space, and we didn't do a good enough job of either.
How do you bridge that gap then, Mike, between identifying, talking about what's wrong and making it better, given the resources you have for the defense in recent years?
It's really simple, guys. You know, you can have a couple of plays and create a catastrophic day. They had a 25-yard run and a 37-yard run, but that's all that's required. You get those big runs, they flip the field, they put them in scoring position, they change the trajectory of your strategy, et cetera. And so, you know, it's not 60 snaps we're talking about here, but in our business at this level, 1 or 2 plays are the difference between having a good day and a catastrophic day.
Mike, we talk a lot about how teams game plan for TJ and you guys game plan for Miles. Do you put Micah Parsons in that same camp, a guy you have to really game plan around?
Most certainly. I think his paycheck indicates so.
Mike, Flacco's getting rid of the ball very quickly. Is there anything from a coverage standpoint you can do to make quarterbacks hold on to the ball longer to let your pass rush get home?
No doubt. Disguises the coverage concepts themselves, the tightness or the looseness of the coverage is a component of it. But
So
again,
press.
minimizing the run game is a
One of the
component
very
of
few
that. When
things
you're on
we did
schedule,
not do versus
you can run
Cincy.
rhythmic passing. And so, like, none of these things happen in a vacuum. Getting them behind the sticks will make the quarterback hold on to the ball longer, particularly as it pertains to the line of game. When it's 3rd down and 2 and 3, those balls generally come out pretty quickly.
That tightness and looseness, does that speak to more press man potentially that could aid you guys?
Or up posture zones. Tight and looseness doesn't necessarily speak to man or zone. It just speaks to the contour or the structure pre-snap.
In the NFL is a big game, but do you have a sense of the magnitude of this matchup for Aaron Rodgers facing another former team this season?
You know, I don't. Aaron's been at it a long time. You know, he's got an awesome relationship with this game. I haven't been with him for a long time, but he's been fired up every single week. I'd imagine it's going to be the same. I'd imagine some external things are going to make more out of it than it is for him. He's playing to win. That's what he does. And that's kind of my perspective on it.
That you've gotten to work with him throughout this offseason and into the season right now up to this point, what has impressed you about what you've learned from him that maybe you didn't know previously?
I just think, you know, I've been in this thing long enough to know that you don't stumble into 20-plus years of service in this business. And there are probably some unique habits, a unique relationship with work, with the game of football. And so I anticipated that, but it still doesn't make it less impressive. His day-to-day, what he's willing to do. He's been in the building all day today. He loves it. It's who he is. He loves the process. He loves to talk ball. He loves to educate his teammates to get on the same page. He doesn't tire in terms of seeking resolution to issues. It's just a lot of good things about him other than obviously his physical talents and skills that have been really impressive. And again, as I mentioned, not that I'm shocked by it, but it's still highly appreciated.
After the game, Ramsey stood up and took a lot of blame for what happened. To being overly critical, was that a fair assessment?
No, man, like, he's got big shoulders. That's how he felt.
You guys rank in the bottom half of the league in 3rd down, stopping the 3rd down, and stopping 3rd and long, and now you're facing the offense that's been the best at 3rd down and 3rd and long. What do you guys have to do to be better? What are the things you notice that you guys can be sharper in those moments?
We got to put together a good plan. We got to have a good week. We got to have detailed execution as a collective. That's the ingredients.
How much self-reflection, self-criticism did you guys do during this like mini bye? You guys have usually come out of these pretty successfully. How much do you dedicate to something?
You know, it's business as usual for us. We get some additional days. We're going to look within. We're also going to look at things trending in the league. It just wasn't a lot of time between this mini break and the one that we just had, and so it's business as usual for us.
Mike, it seems like Aaron's really endeared himself to the locker room pretty quickly since he got here. Did you anticipate his ability to kind of assimilate to the culture so quickly?
I did. I just know too many people that have worked with him in other locations, and you know, and I knew how his teammates felt about him in other places, and so not shocked by that at all.
Mike, your secondary has a lot of experience, but not in this system playing together. Is that maybe attributed to why there were some problems against the Bengals?
I'm sure it's a component of it, but we don't seek comfort or find comfort in that. We got to be better.
You guys have been averaging decent yardage on the ground behind in the gaps with McCormick and Faltano. What have they done to become a better duo as run blockers for you guys?
It's not those guys individually. It's about the collective. I think largely our run game has been trending in the right direction for about a month or so now. But that's
And it's getting better.
Thing to happen. We got a young
Just the
group.
offensive
They're
line's
gaining
getting
maturity
better.
individually and collectively. We're getting the type of cohesion that is going to allow that to happen. And I just think it's a global trajectory thing, and it's not about two people within the collective.
Now, you've used a lot of different guys in different combinations at safety. Some of that's been injury related, some of it otherwise. Would you ideally like to get to two guys, or are you comfortable continuing to mix and match?
You know, what you'd like to do in the reality in this business oftentimes is different, particularly as it pertains to player availability. That's why it's very important that you have a deep and talented group, that you do a good job of coaching all parties involved, because everybody gets an opportunity to ante up and kick in at some point. And so I've just trained myself over the years to never wait for the scenario that you mentioned, that you better coach everybody all the time, because generally there's always going to be some challenges from a player availability standpoint, man, and the expectation is the expectation.
Mike, it looked like Broderick got a little too enthusiastic after the touchdown. It tackled Aaron. What was your reaction to that? Broderick said he apologized to him.
I never saw it. I didn't see it live. I didn't see it in replay. I heard about it, so I really don't have a reaction.
Is Corey Trice close to coming back to practice?
He is.
Is Miles out for the season, or could he potentially come back?
Miles is out for the season. Miles had knee surgery that was deemed a success, but certainly he's facing rehabilitation at this juncture, and so our heart aches for Miles. Obviously, he's a significant component of what we do, particularly in the special team space. It's never one man. It's probably a collection of men that have to step up when you're faced with a challenge like that. Pep did a nice job as a personal protector on our punt team last week, but there'll be no exhale there. That's something that's got to be earned over a long period of time. We've played a lot of football with Miles in that spot. That's the quarterback of the punt team, if you will, and so that certainly has our attention as we work to fortify the spaces, the voided spaces where he's usually an asset to us.
In terms of play style and approach of how they like to rush Parsons, is there at all a comp you can draw to how you guys successfully contained Garrett a couple weeks ago, or is that an apples to apples thing?
It can be, but certainly they're two different people in terms of what makes them great and how they get to the quarterback, but how they're deployed, the distribution of rushers, number of rushers. Both groups play behind their four-man rush. Both guys are edge players. Both guys are capable of moving around to either side. And so, but the same could be said about any of the elite rushers. Max Crosby in Vegas, for example, they play behind their four-man rush. He moves around some. I just think that's what you do when you have elite players like those guys.
What's the line that you have to walk when you play a team like Cincinnati and you want to maybe start or use a lot of sub-package, and then they start to run the ball on you, and then you have to switch back? I mean, that juggling act, how do you try to get it to progress?
I just think that's a strategic part of the game that's never going anywhere. That's what we do all week, you know. And certainly going into games, teams have personalities, but your ability to adapt and adjust end game is a major component of engineering success, and those type of things go down in a myriad of ways every week. You make plans, you fortify those plans with reps and work, but at the same time you're light on your feet because you understand what you're looking at in stadium oftentimes requires adaptation.
Like Arthur Smith has worked with 3 very different quarterbacks in his brief time here and had success. You're top 10 right now in scoring offensively. What stands out about the way he's continued to evolve and modify his offense to fit the skill sets of the quarterback?
I think that's one of the things that was attractive to me about him. The same could be said for his time spent in Tennessee and Atlanta. Quarterbacks with varying skill sets. Matt Ryan was a pocket passer. Mariota was a mover. Tannehill could move and was a Grizzly veteran. He's been around a variety of guys, but he's always been adaptable. And that adaptability is a major component of coaching, and he's very good at it. He certainly has a mode of operation, things that he values, but he's pliable enough to bring the ball not only to his quarterback and their skill set, but to the talent within the collective as well.
You guys had a lot of success throwing to tight ends against the Bengals. How much is just their usage kind of alleviates in the lack of depth in the wide receiver room, especially with Calvin's injury?
I think we've been talking about that since the beginning of team development. We got a deep and talented group in that space, and they're all eligibles. They're positionless receivers, REC, and that's kind of been the spirit in which we've operated all season.
Joey had a couple of penalties.
I've just called them PCs, pass
Is
catchers.
something that part of that matchup? Is there something you're seeing that just needs to be corrected?
I'd imagine those 2 receivers got something to do with it.
Anyone else? Mike, are there any lingering concerns about the playing surface of Agrisher? Are you guys not concerned? Is that something you're paying attention to going into this game?
Not from my perspective, man. I am not a grass expert. I hadn't cut my grass in a long, long time. I coach football. I'm gonna stay in my lane.
Mike is.
I don't even know who cuts my grass. Okay.
Nick Harrison close to being activated, and where might he help you either defensively or defensively?
He's working. He's at that stage. He's in that 21-day window where he's working, and we're just going to watch his work and let the quality of his work kind of be our guide, whether or not we consider him.
You talk about the excitement of playing on Sunday Night Football, but what can be said about a matchup like this featuring 2 very storied, very historic franchises?
Man, it's just life in the National Football League. It's what I probably enjoy most about it. Each week, man, there's something to get really fired up about. Got a lot of respect for that organization historically. Got a lot of respect for that organization present day with their collection of leadership and players and so forth. And so we've been in some big games with them. I would imagine this was not going to be any different. It's exciting. It's the NFL.
Talking about things that get you excited, the alternate uniforms, the helmets, that's something that elevates this game even more?
That's like the grass for me. I got some other priorities. I probably wouldn't have known about that had you not informed me.
Mike, you guys right now are the best at 3rd and shorter, 3rd and 3 and shorter. What have you guys done to win those short yardage situations more consistent?
I don't know. The difference between being number 1 and not being number 1 is minute. And so we're just trying to be our very best, particularly in situations, and where we are, particularly at this stage of the journey, is where we are. We're not overanalyzing it.
Anyone else?
You talked about Pat, who said we're not going to bring his playing time up this week. How have you seen that whole group adjust to there being 4 tight ends that all get playing time and having that attitude about it?
It's been great. It's been great since day 0 of team development. The collective welcomed John with open arms. John worked hard to fit in and be a component of the group. He realizes that he's the elder statesman in the group, even though he is new, and so he's absorbed some big brother-like responsibilities in terms of being a Grizzly veteran. It's a good collection of talent and a good collection of people, and I think when you have that, that's what you're looking for. You have an opportunity for it to work, and it has, and I see no reason why it won't continue.
All right.
Oops. So, if it's not obvious. Bad defense equals bad results. And that was really from the second quarter to the end, as Tomlin said, because we scored 7 in the first quarter. By the way, we're on like a 56 game streak of scoring 7 or fewer points in the first quarter, which apparently is the longest streak in NFL history. And I will say that yes, like in the past we had like a bad defense or a bad offense, right? So we struggled to score points. But now we have a really good offense and we're scoring points, but our defense isn't doing much. And also, if you decide, hey, we either want to defer to the second half, that way you can get the kickoff on the second half, or if you win the toss and you say we want the ball, right? Or no. If you lose the toss and the other team says they want the ball, that's what it is. You win and you defer, or you lose and the other team says they want the ball. So you start kicking off, right? So they get the ball and they have a drive, and however it ends. And then you get a drive, however it ends, right? Then they get a drive. And by the time their drive has ended, you're probably close to the end of the first quarter. So then by the time your drive starts, maybe you're still in the first quarter. Maybe you got 3 minutes left. And you're going right down the field. And you could be at the 5-yard line. And you run it. You get down to the 2. Oh, first quarter's over. And you only scored 7. But you were just a few yards away from scoring again, right? So there is some stuff that influences that, but also the fact that we used to have a really bad offense probably kicked that streak off. The penalties have really killed us the past 2 weeks. Now, granted, we still beat Cleveland by a good chunk. But we could have won by more. Not to mention, if we get some of those interceptions, we win by more. It kind of really just went from 100 to 0 really quick, as far as the Steelers having control of that game. And Tomlin said it was 1 or 2 big runs by Chase Brown, and that was it. He is optimistic on Calvin Austin and doing this the day after. I believe the practice report said that Calvin Austin was a full participant. So it would appear that Calvin's going to play. The Packers defense, they do not allow many big plays at all. They're like among the tops in the league of not allowing big running plays or big passing plays. So this may be a possess the ball, get a few yards here and a few yards there. Okay, it's 3rd and 2. All right, we got the first down. It's going to be a grind, I think. Micah Parsons did have a pretty big game last week. I believe it was 3 sacks versus Arizona. 10 pressures, I think. Some quarterback hits as well. He had a pretty good game. Now, granted, that was versus Arizona's backup quarterback, so. But even then, Arizona had a chance to win the game at the end. And apparently, in every single win this year, the Packers have scored 27. Every time they win, they score 27. So we can let them score 26, we can let them score 28, but we can't let them score 27. Which is unfortunate because that's a really common score. The linebacker duo in the middle, Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper, it's a really nice duo. and we're going to have to worry about those two. Josh Jacobs is one of the biggest focuses on offense, maybe the biggest, we'll see. And even though we've struggled to do it for the most part this year, minus Quinshon Judkins, we got to stop the run. If we want to have any chance in this game, we're going to have to stop the run. Tucker Kraft, my fantasy tight end. Really good tight end, who the Steelers seem to have struggled facing in years past. So we will see how he does versus Pittsburgh. Matthew Golden, the first-round pick, the first wide receiver taken in the first round by the Green Bay Packers in like 23 years or something like that. It was crazy. Something that I'm going to Google here as I talk about it because I am curious about this. Like, we talked about Tomlin's record on Thursday Night Football. But what is Mike Tomlin's record on Sunday Night Football? Now, granted, we are coming off a little bit of extra rest, but I'm just curious what it would be to see how much does a night game really affect it, you know? So let's see. 5 days ago. This is Mike Tomlin's record on night football. On Monday nights, he is 21-3. Thursday nights, he is now 9-11. And Sunday nights, he is 17-8. Now that is home and away. Okay? So 17-8 on Sunday Night Football. Not bad. Winning record. And I just quickly pulled that off a Google search. So if I'm wrong, don't kill me. At that point, the internet lied to me. We are going to be wearing our new throwbacks. The only good part about these throwbacks is the yellow helmet. That's like the only good thing here. I know they're supposed to be based off our 1933 uniforms. Our inaugural season in pro football. But they're kind of ugly. Some people like if you would trade the tan pants for black, it would look better. I've heard people say that. Are we going to get a heavy dose of Nick? People have talked about Pat. And here we go. Pat Freiermuth, 2 touchdowns. So are we going to get a heavier dose of Nick? Possibly, but we'll see. It depends on if they run it well. Because, like I said, Nick is not a liability in the run game. But other guys are better. I mean, simple as that. Is there any extra motivation here? There was extra motivation with Aaron and the Jets. Just because they kind of told him, fuck off, get lost. You know, fly across the country just to be told we're not keeping you. So, I think Aaron was like, no. It's just another game. Post-game, oh yeah, I wanted to beat everyone associated with them. So, we'll see. We got to give our pass rushers just a little more time. Now, I'm not talking doubling the time they get to the quarterback. But half a second to a second can really make a difference. Because that can be the difference of hitting his arm and all of a sudden it's a fumble. That can be the difference between hitting him and it's a sack. or fumble, whatever. But we just need that little more time. That's all we need. It's just a little more. Let's see. Apparently, they are like one of the best, if not the best, third down offense and third and long offense in the entire NFL, and we're average. Or below average, whatever the guy said. We're meh. Unfortunately, Miles Killebrew is out for the year. That sucked. Best of recovery to him, and we're going to have to figure out how we fill that void on special teams. One of those solutions could be Malik Harrison. He is in his 21-day practice window to come back from his injury. And a little bit of a pleasant surprise for some Steelers fans, Will Howard is in his 21-day window. I didn't make a video on this, but the Steelers did terminate Logan Woodside from the practice squad, I think was the term used. So people are like, is that Will? Is it Skylar? Who, is there someone about to work his way back? And it's Will. So that is all my notes from this here. So we'll see what happens on Sunday Night Football, but fingers crossed, right? If you guys did enjoy this, please do leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.